accomplishments of the last 2.5 years and the extraordinary achievements of the Trump administration.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at noon on AM 1250. The Answer.
Impeach him or shut up? Yep, Bob Mueller gave the Democrats the opening they wanted, and now it's on them. It took Jerry Nadler about 5 minutes before he said it was up to Congress to investigate the crimes that Mueller didn't have enough evidence on to prosecute, and up to Congress to hold the president accountable for those crimes that Mueller wasn't able to find enough evidence of to prosecute. So apparently, Jerry thinks that he and the other Democrats in Congress are going to be able to find evidence that Mueller couldn't find in, 2.5 years and $40 million worth of looking. Plenty of people in the media believe that Mueller gave the Democrats the green light for impeachment, and it's obvious that plenty of Democrats agree. They're all over the place talking about it today. So let's see if they have the guts to go for it. We're a year and a half from a presidential election. They've been saying for 2 years that President Trump is guilty of crimes, and, including they've thrown the word treason around, which is punishable by death. Some of them were throwing that word around anyway. So if they really believe what they've been saying, and if they believe what they're saying again today, that these committed crimes, Nadler used the word crimes. If he's guilty of crimes and misdemeanors, well, that's impeachment. And they have to prove if this is what they think, they're obligated to go with impeachment, and they'll have to prove that crimes were committed, enough so that the Republicans in the Senate will vote to indict him and remove him from office. So it's a long road there for him. That's not going to happen. And if the Democrats don't agree with that, then there's no reason for them not to impeach. So put your money where your mouths have been, Democrats, and go for it, or shut up. In our second half hour, we're going to talk to a government lawyer who will tell us what he thinks Mueller accomplished or didn't accomplish today. Meanwhile, if Bob Mueller hadn't done his press conference today, a trial in Oklahoma yesterday would have gotten a lot more attention in the media today. The state filed a suit against Johnson & Johnson and said the company helped create, quote, the worst man-made public health crisis in history. That's what they called it. It's all about the opioids. And when we come back, we're going to hear from a guy who's going to tell you that the epidemic isn't Johnson & Johnson's fault or the fault of any drug company. All those pills out there, it's the government's fault. We'll hear from him when we come back.
She gave me pills from my toes, and they didn't ache. She gave me pills from my love, but it was a little too late. She gave me pills from my heart to put me at ease. The rock and roll nurse shook me dead to my knees. She went to my head.
Maybe you'd like to know what exactly Relief Factor is. It was created by doctors. It's a 100% drug-free supplement with 4 key ingredients that simply help your own body deal with the natural inflammatory response that it has. It's easy to swallow, 4 little capsules in each packet, like the packet that I carry with me at all times. 3 packets a day for a week, then 2 packets a day for 2 weeks, and I have just described the 3-week quick start. And you will know in 3 weeks. That's the beauty of it. Whether it works, they don't drag you on. That costs just $19.95. There's a very good chance that a very serious percentage of my listeners suffer from some sort of muscular or joint pain. You should try this for $19.95. That's all you can lose. If it works, they will send it to you automatically. If it doesn't work, tell them not to send any shipments, and it's as simple as that. It is all at ReliefFactor.com. I've been using it for years now. ReliefFactor.com.
Okay, meat lovers, Beef Jerky Outlet presents over 100 delicious ways to get your snack on. There's nothing slim about these big flavors. This is high-end quality gourmet jerky in more flavors than you've ever thought possible. From wild game to pepper and spice to sweet and savory, there's something for everyone. Flavors like honey jalapeno, Cajun barbecue beef brisket, sweet bourbon traditional, Asian sesame, teriyaki, cherry maple, and peppercorn smoked beef, just to name a few. With Father's Day coming up, this is a total no-brainer for the guy in your life. Visit beefjerkyoutlet.com for fabulous gift ideas. Plus, check out their phenomenal selection of rubs, sauces, and marinades. Beef Jerky Outlet at Tanger Outlets in Washington and their brand new location at Grove City Outlets. Beef Jerky Outlet, proud sponsor of the Jerk of the Week, heard every Friday right here on the John Steigerwald Show. Check them out, beefjerkyoutlet.com.
Have you ever seen a pest controller spraying chemicals in your home? It makes you wonder, if their chemicals are safe, then why do they suit up and wear respirators only to leave you to walk back in unprotected? G'day, I'm Scott from Plug-in Pest Free, and I'm here to tell you there's a better way. In an age where we now have the choice to drive electric cars, you too can electronically rid your home or business of unwanted rodents and pests. The answer is Plug-in Pest Free. 100% chemical-free, Plug-in Pest Free is your safest bet for your family and pets. Our bestseller, the Plug-in Pest Free Pro, will cover up to 4,000 square feet. Now that's fair dinkum. So order yours today at gopestfree.com. Use promo code SAVE20 for 20% off plus free shipping and a 60-day money-back guarantee. That's gopestfree.com, promo code SAVE20. Don't spray and regret, plug in and forget. GoPestFree.com today.
We're talking to Rocky Blyer. He's involved with the Miracle League of Moon Township and the construction of a Miracle League athletic field. The fields are designed to make it possible for kids with special needs to play sports.
Every child, no matter what the situation, deserves a chance to be able to play, to compete, and have a place that's safe, takes care of needs, that's organized. This will be the fourth Miracle League field that will be built. Now we got 4 places to be able to travel, so it broadens the whole interest of sports. It's just terrific for a community to do that.
There's a buddy system I thought was pretty impressive. What's that all about?
Kids with special needs have a buddy, a child who's in school. It's like having an older brother or sister involved with you. So it's really good, and that everybody has human dignity of being able to participate.
The website is miraclesinmoon.org. Check it out, and let's help make this dream a reality. Hey, Rocky, thanks, and we'll be talking to you again about this project. Appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Rocky Blyer, and we'll be right back.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Well, there aren't too many things that Republicans and Democrats agree on, but I can tell you one, opioids and the opioid epidemic. Everybody knows it's a huge problem right now. Just about everybody blames the drug companies. The state of Oklahoma is blaming Johnson & Johnson in a lawsuit. And nobody's rooting for Johnson & Johnson, I don't think anyway, but maybe it's not their fault. Jeffrey Miron is Director of Economic Studies at the CATO Institute and the Director of Graduate and Undergraduate Studies in the Department of Economic Studies at Harvard University. And Jeffrey joins us now. Thanks for being here, Jeffrey.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So the headline of a piece you wrote for CATO just last month read, "Opioid Industry Suits are a misguided cash grab against a politically unpopular target." And all the stories I saw yesterday about the suit, and maybe I missed it, the suit that Oklahoma is filing, it has filed, the trial that's going on there. I don't recall anybody blaming the government. Seems like everybody's just piling on Johnson & Johnson and expecting them to cave and cough up some serious cash.
That's right. That is what most people are expecting. I have a very different view of who's responsible for what. Yeah. And what the right remedies might be.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The headline of your piece was that it's a cash grab, and so who is responsible for what's happening here?
So my analysis is that what's responsible is the policy by which we restrict access to opioids. Mm-hmm. Opioids are not a legal product. They're illegal in a very limited sense that they can be produced and prescribed, but people who want to consume them on a long-term basis cannot do so unless they are in methadone maintenance or unless they have a physician who will prescribe for long periods, which is very rare. So people who end up wanting to consume for long periods, whether they're addicted, whether they're in pain or not, for whatever reason, but can't get legal access, can't get prescription access, they go to the black market and they consume drugs like heroin and fentanyl, which were not legally available. And because they're not sold in a legal market, they're of unknown purity and quality. And so people overdose not because they're taking opioids per se, but because they don't know what dosage they're taking. If people were consuming alcohol under the same circumstances, there would be many more overdoses from alcohol than there are, as occurred during alcohol prohibition when we outlawed alcohol.
Yeah, and I think most people believe that it's, when they hear opioid crisis, they think of people hoarding jars of Vicodin or OxyContin, something like that, and just overdosing on it, and they don't look at it as a black market thing as much as they should. And that is that because of the quickness with which people are blaming the drug companies for not letting people know how addictive these drugs are and those kinds of things? That's what they're being accused of in Oklahoma.
That is certainly what they're being accused of. And it is absolutely right that starting in the mid-1980s, roughly, the medical profession came to the view that we could use opioids more generally for medical purposes without causing excessive amounts of addiction or misuse. And the data, all of the studies essentially, back up that view, that it was possible to help alleviate more people's pain for more conditions without generating significant amounts of addiction. But it's also true that the manufacturers were happy to hear that message from doctors and other medical professionals, and so they did. They produced new opioids, they did market those opioids aggressively, and so on. But the question is that necessarily so bad? So first of all, one effect of the broader view of the opioid use and the broader advertising was that many people who had been living in terrible pain were able to manage their pain more effectively and live better lives. So at a minimum, the fact that some people may have overdosed because of the so-called excessive advertising, that's only one part of the equation. We should also be looking at the fact that the aggressive advertising helped more people live better lives. Second, the people who were taking these prescriptions and those who did want to continue longer than their physicians would prescribe, they only ended up having to go to the black market because of the legal limitations, because the government prevented them from being able to go and buy a legal opioid of a known dosage and continue taking it in ways that hadn't been doing them any harm.
Yeah, I have a personal experience with that. I was taking Vicodin for a long time for bad knees. I had 4 surgeries on one of my knees, and my doctor was happy to give me the Vicodin. And then a couple of years ago, he said, I can't do it anymore. He said, at first it started with he couldn't just call the prescription into the drugstore. He said, I can only send you a letter, or you can come to my office and pick it up and then take it to the drugstore, but you can't call it in anymore. And it was a pain, both literally and figuratively for me, and I ended up not taking the Vicodin anymore, but I was taking 2 a day maybe at night to sleep. And I was told that I can't do that anymore because I don't know because the government decided that they had to crack down on the doctors, and the doctor told me that he was nervous about doing it because they were really leaning on him. So what you're saying is there are a lot of people out there just in pain who were getting great relief from these pills that were a great discovery by the drug companies, but now they can't get them.
Exactly. And so some people in a situation such as yours simply suffered in silence. Some substituted toward other painkillers, which may or may not have been as effective or may have had negative side effects. Well, aspirin and Advil can have negative effects, such as causing ulcers and things like that.
Right.
Other people said, yes, okay, if I can't get it through my doctor, I'm going to buy it through the black market. But then they were at risk for an overdose because the pills they bought that claimed to be Vicodin maybe weren't actually Vicodin, maybe were laced with fentanyl, or they consumed something like heroin. If they injected heroin and shared needles, they were at risk of getting HIV and other communicable blood transport diseases. And so in an attempt to stop an alleged epidemic of addiction, we hurt a bunch of people who were using opioids in a totally functional, constructive, good way, and we caused more overdoses because we push these people to go to the black market where you're much more likely to be in danger from consuming opioids.
And so prohibition is batting 1,000. It never fails to make things worse, right?
That is my view. Prohibitions across all sorts of commodities, drugs, alcohol, gambling, prostitution, guns, etc. Prohibitions are very ineffective ways to accomplish a goal of trying to reduce something or trying to reduce the misuse of something. For alcohol, say, we punish people who drive under the influence, and we try to have rules that keep people from using alcohol in bad ways. But we don't just outlaw it because we know from our experience of prohibition that that's going to cause way more harm than good. That's going to create black markets and all that sort of thing.
It's interesting, too, that while this prohibition is taking place with the opioids, that all over the country and all over North America, marijuana is becoming legal, state by state and all over Canada. And wasn't that long ago that you could go to jail for a long time for selling that, and you can now buy it in a store in Ontario a few hours from here.
Exactly. And some of the claims that were made quite widely and vocally by the federal government and others about how awful marijuana was for you, they sounded just as bad or worse than the claims that are made now about opioids. Another interesting fact is that the states that have legalized or medicalized marijuana have actually seen reductions in the rate of increase of opioid overdoses. Some people have been substituting toward marijuana because it also can be an effective pain reliever. It just, again, illustrates that when people are given choices, even if it's choices amongst potentially dangerous things which can be misused, most people don't want to misuse them. They don't want to put themselves in danger, and they will try to substitute toward those substances which give them relief from pain or whatever, in a relatively safe fashion. So allowing people to make choices instead of having the government dictate those choices seems to be much more effective.
So I just have a hard time imagining politicians agreeing with what you're saying. It's too far down. The train's too far down the track right now for that.
Well, I agree and disagree. Certainly, having politicians advocate for legalizing opioids seems very unlikely in the near-term future. But there's one set of policies that a lot of politicians seem to be okay with, and if they were expanded significantly, would make a big difference, would help a lot, and that is giving more access to medication-assisted means letting people who are opioid users get treated by getting continued access to opioids. That's exactly what methadone maintenance is, which the U.S. has been using for about 45, 50 years. And all the evidence suggests that people who get access to this kind of medication-assisted treatment instead of abstinence treatment, they're permitted to continue using opioids, that helps improve their lives in various ways. They access the black market less often, they stay employed more often, they earn higher incomes, they're in better health, and on and on and on. So many states and the federal government have been talking about, and in some cases enacting, policies which broaden access to medicine. Made it easy for any doctor, then of course you would be effectively moving toward legalization, even though it would have this veneer of still having government control.
Well, they're still legal, at least with a prescription, aren't they? I mean, you can get you can still get these drugs with a prescription, but it's I just wonder because after I had surgery, I was really happy to have Vicodin for the few days after surgery. If I don't know what I'd do if he gave me enough for 2 days and said, after that just take some Advil. So it's not just. I mean, it is still legal. It's just that the doctors seem to be afraid to prescribe it after a certain amount of time.
Well, let's agree to say that it's partially legal. And
okay.
That's true of all sorts of things. I mean, even heroin is actually partially legal because some companies are allowed to use it to manufacture testing kits that test for the presence of heroin. Mm-hmm. And fentanyl is actually legal to be used as a painkiller under doctor supervision, but it's used in a very, very, very limited way in current practice. But if legalization is only partial, and a lot of people who would like to purchase the commodity cannot get access legally, and that's what happens under a prescription system. If the prescription access is fairly restrictive, as you just described, then the fact that a little bit of it access is legal is not really relevant. What's relevant is that for most people, they can't get legal access.
And there's a misconception out there about who exactly is dying from overdoses of these opioids?
Yeah, first thing to say is that nobody really knows for sure. We don't have perfect data to address that. I think the popular perception is that people who are dying of the overdoses are non-users who took opioids for medical reasons, got hooked, and then they went out and consumed black market opioids, such as heroin or fentanyl.
Right.
That undoubtedly happens, but the evidence is more suggestive that more people who are dying are people who were recreational users and didn't get access as much as they wanted, may have had medical access at some point, but were users before any medical use, and they've been accessing the black market and are at high risk. Even if all happening for people who had started using for medical reasons, under medical supervision, it's still true that if they've been able to continue accessing legal prescription opioids, they would be much less likely to go to the black market. Virtually, almost never would go to the black market. Almost everyone would prefer to buy from a regular store where you know the dosage and the purity, where if you've got a bad dose, you can sue the manufacturer for faulty products, just like with any other product. And so there would be much less use of the black market if the prescription limits weren't there. Take your own store. If your doctor had kept prescribing you Vicodin for your knee pain, you never to go to the black market to buy Vicodin. You would have just been continued buying from a pharmacy by the prescription. But when the prescription limits are imposed, and some of the limits are from government, and some of those are doctors who are just worried about being monitored by the government. But when those are imposed, then people are motivated to go to the black market.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who's a dentist tell me that he had to call the cops because a guy came in and demanded that he pull his tooth so that he would have pain, and then the dentist could prescribe him Vicodin. I know of another case of a woman who had a problem with addiction, and she was doing harm to herself to the point where it would require a visit to the emergency room in hopes that the doctor would see her pain and prescribe Vicodin. And that's what... No, go ahead.
Even sadder examples are people who have been receiving prescriptions and seem to think that those prescription opioids were helping them, live functional lives, and then have been cut off by their doctors, and there are 20 or so documented cases like this have committed suicide because their lives with the pain but no opioids were simply too unbearable. And 20 is just the number that's documented. There may well be more. And of course, lots of people who are not committing suicide but suffering more than needed because they've been cut off from their prescriptions.
Talking to Jeffrey Miron, he's Director of Economic Studies at the CATO Institute and Director of Graduate and Undergraduate Studies in the Department of Economic Studies at Harvard University. I only have a minute, and I'm up against a hard break here, Jeffrey. I'm just wondering, this thing has the politicians this seems to be something that politicians glom onto, and that they're not going to let go of it.
Yes, that seems to be the case, but we do have examples where the citizens and the voters and then the politicians have moved away from prohibition. Alcohol prohibition's history in the U.S. is a great example. We adopted 1920, and we had repealed it by the beginning of 1934.
Right.
Okay? The gradual medicalization and partial legalization of marijuana in the United States is another example where the pendulum swung away from prohibition.
Jeffrey,
legalization of cannabis. Sorry, I'll leave it there.
Thanks. I'm out of time. I got 3 seconds. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. We've heard from Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
In a brief statement at the Department of Justice, Robert Mueller reiterated what he called the central allegation of his investigation.
There were multiple systematic efforts to interfere in our election, and that allegation deserves the attention of every American.
As to no conclusion on obstruction of justice, Mueller said that was not an option.
Under long-standing department policy, a president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional.
On the possibility of testifying before Congress,
any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report.
Mueller officially closed the investigation and said he was resigning his post at Justice.
Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines reporting. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 221 points, the Nasdaq dropped 60, the S&P lower by 19. This is SRN News.
When it comes to your pain, many of you might be skeptical, like I was, about ordering Relief Factor. Pat Boone again for this wonderful 100% drug-free supplement designed to help your own body lower or eliminate occasional aches and pains due to aging, exercise, everyday living. I'm not skeptical any longer. The 3-week quick start is now discounted to only $19.95. Why don't you let us see if we can get you out of pain, too, at ReliefFactor.com.
Ah, the copperhead snake. It hisses before attacking. But that's not a copperhead. That's the Sullivan's RV freshwater tank overflowing, juice backing into their vent pipe, making for a very different kind of attack. One that arrives just in time for taco night. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Dennis Prager believes the information gap is significant.
I want people who do not agree with me to read me. This is a very real problem in America. Conservatives read and know what the left thinks, and the opposite is not the case at all.
The Dennis Prager Show, weekdays at noon, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 1250. The Answer.
Pella has done it again with our brand new lifestyle series. Pella can customize window replacement solutions room by room. Imagine bedroom and bathroom windows with shades between the glass. A room darkening experience for sleep in one room and beautiful privacy in the other. Pella Lifestyle Series is the #1 performing wood window and patio door. For a limited time, get 50% off installation in 12 months, no payments, no interest. Call 888-77-PELLA or PellaPittsburgh.com.
1 in 7 men is diagnosed with prostate cancer in his lifetime. The good news? When caught early, it can be treated. The bad? All treatment options have side effects like impotence, urinary leakage, and rectal bleeding. New Space Ore Hydrogel is FDA cleared and clinically proven to help. Men receiving Space Ore Hydrogel were more likely to maintain their normal sexual, urinary, and bowel functions. Visit spaceoar.org or ask your doctor about Space Ore Hydrogel.
Hunt & Associates is your resource for examining important financial aspects for your retirement plan. Listen to our podcast radio show, Hunt for Retirement, by visiting gwhunt.com. On this week's edition of Hunt for Retirement, we discuss securing lifetime income. Text HUNT to 555-888 or visit gwhunt.com to listen to the podcast now or call 844-366-HUNT for a free copy of the book, Income Allocation, and a free retirement income report.
Do you or your business have financial problems? Are you overwhelmed with debt? Then call me, Attorney Dennis Spire, at 412-471-7675. My legal practice concentrates on bankruptcy law, debtor rights, and tax matters. I have over 30 years' experience as a former United States Department of Justice bankruptcy attorney and lawyer in private practice. I have represented thousands of cases faced with financial problems and lawsuits. Reorganize and get a fresh start. Call 412-471-7675 or visit my website at DennisSpira.com.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
Lots of weather-related closures because of downed wires, including the Parkway North outbound shutdown from Camp Horn Road up to 79. Now 79 northbound, that's closed down with downed wires between Mount Nebo Road and 910, and southbound at 910. You have to exit there at Wexford and then get back on southbound. We've got an accident on the PA Turnpike. This is at Cranberry, exit 28. Parkway West, very heavy inbound 79 to the Fort Pitt Tunnel. That's a look at traffic. I'm Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
A severe thunderstorm watch is in effect through 7 p.m. A flash flood watch is in effect as well. We'll have a shower and strong thunderstorm around through early this evening. Any thunderstorm can produce flash flooding, large hail, and damaging wind gusts. A leftover shower or thunderstorm in spots later tonight, 64. Tomorrow, a couple of thunderstorms around, mainly later when they can be strong again. High tomorrow, 73. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Danielle Niddle.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, Bob Mueller said his piece today, and it's been great for the media, and the Democrats seem to think it's great for them, but it really cleared nothing up, I don't think. It may have made impeachment more likely. Cully Stimson is a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He joins us now. Cully, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure, John.
So what did Mueller accomplish today? I mean, what do we know now what do I know now that I didn't know when I got up this morning?
Well, I think the fact, one, that he actually spoke at all is significant because he's been tight-lipped for these 2 years. He's a belt and suspender, by-the-book Marine. And so he spoke. He was very short and to the point. He didn't say anything that wasn't included in his report. In fact, he concluded by saying, I don't want to testify, in so many words, and if called to testify, I'm not going to say anything that's not already in the report, and I'm not going to go beyond the four corners of the report. And I'm done. I'm going back to private practice. And he thanked the people that worked on it, and he rubbed his hands together and said, I'm out of here. No questions. And so, there's a lot of opinion bias going on. I watched the various networks left and right after this. Those who favor impeachment, that think of Trump obstructed justice, they think there's a big deal in parsing every word that Mueller said. Those that say it's time to move on, say that's it. It was short and sweet, to the point. It's done. And there's really not anyone who's in the middle. It's just sort of the way it is.
Yeah, and so the president said case closed.
Mm-hmm.
that sums it up pretty
Graham,
well.
Time to move on. And, at the end of the day, once the Attorney General, who's the chief law enforcement officer of this country, who Bob Mueller reports to in the chain of command, because he's part of the executive branch. Once Bob Mueller, the Attorney General, says, we're not going to indict him, there's no indictable offense, that's it. Case is closed. There is no legal case. Now, and once that reality came to pass, then the open question is there a political process that could attempt to hold the president so-called accountable for the Part 2 stuff, the obstruction of justice stuff that Mueller talked about in his report? And that's a political decision the Democrats have to make.
But what I saw from the Democrats and from people on the liberal side of the media, they seem to be saying, they seem to get from this statement that the fact that he the fact that he mentioned that there were things that he could have been prosecuted for, then therefore it's up to them to go get him for the things that Mueller didn't get him on. So they want to do it again.
Well, I mean, if you read the report very carefully, and I had to do so as part of my job, and I'm a former prosecutor and judge, so I know how to read these types of things because I've done it most of my career. You see that the special counsel's report was quite clear in that they said, yes, there's the Office of Legal Counsel guidance that says you cannot indict a sitting president, but nothing prevented the special counsel from saying, but we think the president committed these crimes. That's not indicting somebody. That's not recommending indictment. That's saying he committed these crimes. They didn't say that. At the same time, they said that there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute, but it does not exonerate him, which is an odd conclusion to end with as a prosecutor, because I never my job was to either indict and convict or not indict at all.
As a prosecutor, you mean that's your job.
I didn't exonerate you.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's I mean, at the end of a murder trial where a guy is found innocent, the judge doesn't.
Well, he's found not guilty.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. If he says not guilty, the judge doesn't say, or the district attorney or the prosecutor doesn't say, well, I think he's guilty, but I just can't prove it. It's you present the facts, and the jury gets to decide whether you're not guilty or guilty. But I heard someone say today that there's nowhere in the Constitution that says that the president can't be indicted while he's in office, can't be charged with a crime. And so someone suggested that if Trump really wanted to, if he really wanted to, he could say, hey, you know what? Indict me. Go ahead. Do it. You got nothing on me, indict me. And because there's nothing in the Constitution that prevents it, right?
There's nothing specifically in the Constitution that says you cannot indict a sitting president, but the Office of Legal Counsel, which is the lawyer's lawyer for the executive branch, going back decades, have issued an opinion, and that opinion said that you cannot indict a sitting president. You can do an investigation. You can, as the special counsel's report laid out in Section 2, preserve the evidence for a potential future prosecution. And so, no, nothing in the Constitution, but there's a lot of things that are not in the Constitution. Right. So that's why you have interpretive branches of the federal government that take interpretations of the Constitution. And you remember earlier today, Robert Mueller said it was unconstitutional to indict a sitting president. I think what he really meant was the OLC's opinion is that it was unconstitutional to do that.
Well, but what if the president? What if the president took it upon himself, though? What would be the legal challenge to him saying, "Hey, I know that's the precedent. I understand that there are certain protections that I have, but I'm happy to relinquish those protections, and please indict me."
Yeah, I mean, I would suspect his very able White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, would tell him not to say that,
right.
Number one. Number two, I don't think it would make a difference if the president said, bring it on, because the OLC opinion is the OLC opinion. And the Attorney General has already decided that there was no offense which the president could be prosecuted on given the scope of the Mueller investigation. And remember, the scope of the Mueller investigation, although it seems broad and it's 500 pages in the terms of its report, focused on one thing. Did the Russians screw up and try to mess up our investigation in 2016? Absolutely. And that's part one. And did Trump and his campaign and officials collude with them? No. Part two, was there actions that obstructed justice by the president or his aides of that investigation? Answer, we can't exonerate them, but we are not recommending any charges. And so that's why, as a political matter, the president has been able to say no collusion, no obstruction, and the Democrats have focused as a political matter on part two, which is what they believe are the 10 items in part two of the Mueller investigation that would constitute obstruction. The real question as a political matter is, does it make sense as a political matter to tee up impeachment proceedings only to have, no doubt, the Senate not convict him, which is a political loser for them,
right?
Or to keep peck, prod, poke, hearing after hearing, drip, between now and 2020, to gin up the base, gin up the vote, highlight over a period of time what they believe are very disturbing, if not criminal activity, but not have an impeachment proceeding as a way of driving him out of office in 2020.
That's why, if it's me, and I'm not the guy you want to be taking legal advice from, believe me, but if it's me, at some point, if that were to be the case, where that was the drip effect, if I'm Trump and I know that they got nothing on me, I might be saying, I'm begging you, please impeach me. Start the process tomorrow. Let's do it. Because that's the way I feel about it. And I started my show by saying today, impeach him or shut up. Because the Democrats, as you just said, that's a strategy to just have impeachment kind of hang in there without having the guts to actually go through with it.
Well, in my lifetime, and I came of age in the Reagan era, I've heard the I word for every president. Whether they got there or not, I mean, obviously we saw it play out in reality in the Clinton era, and we know what happened in Nixon. But of course, I was only a teenager then, and so I didn't get to vote, and I wasn't paying that much attention. But in every presidency since Reagan, we hear the I word. Whether they take it up as a matter of law, as a matter of choice, that's up to them. And here, I think that there's a real divide with the far left saying, you got to do impeachment proceedings, and Nancy Pelosi, for the time being, holding the line. We saw that Cory Booker jumped the shark today and called for his impeachment. So, these things take on a life of their own. Where they head, it's hard to say. I don't think that any president is going to be saying, please impeach me because I know you're going to lose in the Senate.
Yeah.
I don't think Pat Cipollone and his other advisors would ever offer that kind of advice to any president.
Well, the thing that I'm thinking about, though, how impeachment would force the Democrats to bring everything out into the open. Everything's on the table, and that would also allow the people defending the president to bring evidence that maybe hasn't been brought to light yet. You know, that impeachment would bring everything up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but think about it this way. First off, of course, you know, the legislative branch is a co-equal branch of the government, so they're not going to take advice from the president about whether to impeach or not. It's an independent decision they have to make.
Right.
Secondly, impeachments are just bad for the country, period.
Yep.
It's bad for everybody. It distracts from the business of what we have to focus on. We have serious issues with respect to Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. We have cyber attacks all the time on our country. We have an economy to run. We have trade deals to carve. People care about issues, healthcare issues, how to take care of your parents. An impeachment proceeding would be a full-time circus. It would make the O.J. trial look like a commercial. It is not good for the country. Of course, it's the prerogative of the Congress to decide whether to commence that, and that's why I think there's some prudence in thinking through whether they should even do that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. He in his statement said that the report speaks for itself, talking about Mueller here. He said the report speaks for itself. If that's true, what was the purpose of him speaking today to clear it up? If it speaks for itself, why do we need him to speak for it today?
Well, it was obviously a personal decision that Robert Mueller had to make, and it wasn't a really long speech.
No.
It was derived almost exactly from the highlights of the report. I think as a Marine, I mean, I'm a naval officer. I'm not speaking for the Navy, of course, only for heritage. But as a naval officer and a former assistant U.S. attorney, I think it makes sense for the person who conducted the special counsel role to stand up and say, case closed, report speaks for itself, I'm out of here. And so he did it in a very dignified way. People are going to see his statement today the way they honestly see the whole affair. If they saw the Mueller report as essentially a roadmap to impeachment, they're just going to find something in what Mueller said today as further proof of that. If they see case closed, they're going to see case closed, back to private practice, he did his job. And I don't think anyone's going to change their mind based on his 8-minute spiel today. I think it's actually going to harden people's opinions.
Right. Talking to Cully Stimson, he's a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. In his statement, he talked about the Russians trying to interfere in our election, and they did. But he said that they're innocent until proven guilty. But he didn't say that about Trump. Why would he say that? Tell everybody to remember that there wasn't enough evidence to convict in his mind Trump of anything. But he didn't say. But he said I couldn't exonerate him. He didn't exonerate the Russians either. But he said they're innocent until proven guilty.
Well, I may be even misremembering this, but my recollection from today is that when he made the comment, innocent until proven guilty, it was in reference to President Trump. Oh. He was very clear that the Russians interfered with our election. His report is a damning indictment, no pun intended, of what the Russians did. And in fact, speaking of indictment, he handed down a sweeping indictment, which if you haven't read it, your listeners should read the darn thing. It's online.
Right.
About all the chicanery and backhanded dirty tricks and rotten stuff that the Russians did to disrupt our election in part one of the report, which is available online. So my recollection is that he wasn't saying the Russians are innocent until proven guilty. In fact, he's indicted a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. It was with respect to the president. That's why it was so befuddling for a lot of people like me who practiced criminal law when he said, although the report doesn't recommend charges, it does not exonerate him. We thought, that's sort of weird because prosecutors don't live in that world. It's
right.
Either indict or don't indict. That's it.
Yeah, and you don't make comment on it when it's over. You accept the verdict and move on, right?
Well, that's true, although this is sui generis. I mean, this is very unique. There's only one Mueller report. There's only one Trump presidency. There's only one time in our nation's history where the Russians did what they did to the extent they did it in 2016. And so there was no roadmap for Mueller, or no guidebook, no standard operating procedure for him to pull off a shelf and figure, what should I do? Now, there's the Nixon impeachment proceedings. There's the Clinton impeachment model. And so he had some historical guidance, but, he did a very thorough job, in my opinion. I've read that report. It clearly, that no exoneration language came from, in my opinion, a disagreement between his senior lawyers as to whether or not there was some there. And so as the special counsel, he had to make the call, and I think that was a compromise, but one that Barr interpreted as, well, you didn't recommend the charges, that's it, end of discussion, no obstruction.
So I have about 30 seconds left. Have we seen the last of Bob Mueller? He says he's going to retire. Are we going to be seeing him again? In this
Bob
case,
Mueller the answer is no.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. But I suspect once his resignation is final tonight, that the Democrats will attempt to subpoena him. And we probably haven't seen the rest of him because he's going to be hauled up to Congress and forced to testify. He won't go beyond the four corners of the document, though. It'll be very frustrating for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cully, Stimson, I really appreciate you being on here to clear this up. It's all very confusing to us lay people, and it's good to have someone with some knowledge of this stuff on the show to clear it up. Thank you.
Always happy to join you.
All right, and that's Cully Stimson, and we will be right back.
Oh, Robert. Oh, Robert. Robert, oh, Robert, if you only knew the same blood is flowing in both me and you.
Share, like, comment, tweet. Are these foreign terms to your business? They may not be to your competition and the reason you're losing sales. Social media marketing is on the verge of dominating commerce. The right social media strategy can help you slay the competition and gain new customers. We're Salem Surround. We take the mystery of digital marketing off your shoulders, letting you run your business while we deliver customers. Your competition is already social. Catch them and surpass them. We offer a free analysis of your digital marketing effectiveness and suggest methods that could dramatically increase your sales. We know how to make every digital dollar count towards sales success. Now there are no limitations on where you can reach customers with Salem Surround. Total market penetration for increased ROI. Learn more by logging on to surroundpittsburgh.com. Surroundpittsburgh.com. Connecting you with new customers.
A couple of weeks ago, we had Rocky Blyer here to talk about his work with Miracle League in Moon Township, Fields for Athletes with Special Needs. Jim Leland, the Pirates' former manager, is also involved in that project. Jim, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, John. Great to talk to you.
Tell me about the Miracle League of Moon Township.
It's just a great thing for these kids, and it's a wonderful opportunity to people to participate. Some people are a little less fortunate than others, and I think it's just a great opportunity for people to volunteer and to help out and put a smile on somebody's face.
I've seen the field that they put out in Upper St. Clair. It's amazing.
Oh, it's unbelievable the way they construct these things. They have the ramps and everything for the kids. It takes a little stress off the parents. I think it's what Pittsburgh's all about. It's just a great thing.
It'll serve Montour, West Allegheny, Moon, Sewickley, Weirton, Steubenville, Beaver County, and surrounding communities. Approximately 100 to 200 children will be eligible to participate, and it'll also serve adults with special needs. So it's a great cause. And if you'd like to see how you can help, maybe donate some money, check it out at miraclesinmoon.org. Miraclesinmoon.org. We'll be right back.
What's inside your mattress affects its price, comfort, and durability. But most mattress manufacturers won't show you what's inside their products because they simply don't want you to know. How can you know if you're getting the best value if you don't know how your mattress is made? At the Original Mattress Factory, we believe that transparency is what's best for our customers. So we have open displays of each model in our showroom so you can see and feel the difference in our products. Visit one of our local Original Mattress Factory stores to see exactly what we're made of.
Not so long ago, all mattresses had two sides, and for a good reason. You can flip two-sided mattresses regularly, making them last longer than one-sided mattresses. So, what happened to two-sided mattresses? In an effort to cut costs, most mattress manufacturers cut their mattresses in half. For nearly 3 decades, the Original Mattress Factory has believed that building high-quality, two-sided mattresses is the right thing to do. Visit us in one of our stores or at originalmattress.com to see how our products are built right and built to last.
Obamacare, Trump Care, ACA, COBRA. There are so many choices, but all seem to bring one word to mind: expensive. There are lots of changes happening in healthcare today. Fortunately, I know someone that has been on the forefront of health insurance for years: Todd Marley at Marley Financial. Todd and his team of professionals are licensed with virtually every healthcare provider in the country. They help determine which plan is right for you and then expertly help you choose the best plan for your needs and then do so prudently. Don't need maternity coverage? Call Marley Financial. Have pre-existing conditions? Call Marley Financial. Want just catastrophic or just accident? You know the answer. Worried about the penalty? All of Marley Financial plans are penalty exempt because they know how to design the plans. Most of their clients save 30 to 60%, which can add up to several $1,000s a year. Call Todd at Marley Financial, 724-884-1496. That's 724-884-1496 on the web at marleyfg.com.
The John Steigerwald Show, AM 1250, The Answer.
I never read the letters to the editor of the Post-Gazette. I haven't read them in 10 years, but my friend Bob Smizek alerted me to one written about me from a guy named Max Parker. He's a video game writer or something. He's a former Pittsburgh guy. He says John Steigerwald made his career punching below his weight class, covering sports in a sport-crazed city during the days when media was lucrative and cushy. As media changed, he's been lucky enough to coast on his name. Then over a couple of decades, young talent came in. He goes on to say that instead of accepting the young talent, I tried to coast on my name and blah, blah, blah. Instead of taking on hungry, budding sports voices, Mr. Steigerwald turned to picking the low-hanging fruit of appealing to right-wing listeners on AM radio. And then he finishes by saying, Mr. Steigerwald's voice doesn't represent a diverse, progressive Pittsburgh community. He's as toxic as Pittsburgh's old steel mills. I like the steel mills that polluted its neighborhoods. He isn't worth your attention or time. Pittsburgh deserves better. I sent a message to Max Parker on Twitter and told him to get back to his joystick. I'll see you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250, The Answer, and Salem Media Group.
You're an insurance agent. You're also an entrepreneur looking to grow. And what better way to grow than by